Alrighty, so what I did so far, just as a refresher to everybody, is I went with Lotus, Santa, and June, and I had the conversation about the cursed mummy on the Titanic. I had the talk about how Santa hates luck, and I got a bookmark, and we had that whole telekinesis dog boat conversation with Lotus. That whole rigmarole, we got that done. Went through the kitchen, we had our talk about all of the ice and stuff. We did all that good stuff, and now we're here, and we're about to have this conversation with Seven again. And but now I think I actually have the ability to retort to him, because I believe he asked about ice that doesn't melt, and I know about ice that doesn't melt now, so yeah.
Oh, well.
Let's see how it goes. Also, I switched over because it makes the conversation scenes go by faster. He looked at Junpei distractedly and then back down to the brown bottle he had kept in his large hands.
Is that a medicine bottle?
I got curious about it. Here.
In response, Seven tossed the bottle gently to Junpei. He caught it, and wouldn't you know, it's a big old thing of something.
Yeah, that's right. CDT.
What kind of medicine is that?
It's not medicine. I think it's an industrial strength detergent.
Right. And then we had a conversation about how Satan doesn't like detergent.
Why would they have something like that here?
Well, probably to clean stuff up.
What up?
You know what? It's an operating room.
I know. Still.
All sorts of gooey nonsense that nobody should be looking at.
Looks like it's cleaned my brain up.
Junpei looked up from the bottle.
You remember something?
Yeah.
Seven nodded slowly and spoke.
I remember a story about EDT.
Okay.
Happened about 50 years ago.
Now, we have gone through this, but we're going to do it again a little bit more briskly, just to get to a point where, it's new information.
There was this factory somewhere in America making big old EDT crystals.
And if by any chance that there is no new information to be had in this particular location, the whole thing will be cut out. Haha. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go.
They were making it to sell as an industrial strength cleaner, like I told you before. But
yeah. And then the crystals were all like, hey, stop doing that. And it was crazy.
Something strange started happening with the crystals they were building. Water molecules started attaching themselves to the EDT crystals. This made them into a sort of mutation of the original crystals, called a hydrate.
I feel like it's going to be really important to this path, so it's good that I actually get a refresher.
Once the crystals turn into a hydrate, though, it's useless as a cleaner.
Right, don't want no hydration in our cleaners.
The factory had to just dump the crystals. As a hydrate, they were useless.
Yeah, that's why we have got a landful full of hydrates.
But it didn't end there.
Until they met with their best friends, the Carbos.
After that day, the same thing started happening in EDT factories everywhere, even ones nowhere near that first American factory.
Because, yeah, as we all know, household detergent is full of telekinesis.
They've been making crystals the same way, the same materials and the same equipment and environment.
I mean, seriously, go to your kitchen, go get the detergent. You'll find out. That thing could read your mind.
But now, all of a sudden, every single crystal they formed turned into a hydrate. In fact, ever since that day, no factory anywhere has been able to make a pure EDT crystal.
Pure bananas.
Even in EDT research done years before, they'd never gotten a hydrate. But after it happened at the first factory, it just spread.
Crazy.
It was like, man, how do you say it?
It was a hit sensation, sweeping the nation.
Like the molecules were communicating with one another, transmitting information in a way humans couldn't perceive. This phenomena spread throughout the world, right?
Hey, that's new. Junpei looked up at Seven with half a smirk. Seven stared at him, dumbfounded.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Because we know more now than we did before.
How did you know?
I heard another story, kind of like that one.
And it seemed really odd and arbitrary and random at the time, but apparently it's all connected.
When?
In the freezer?
What? The freezer?
Yeah, I got locked in a freezer.
Yeah, June told me.
Don't ask why we were in a freezer. Junpei told Seven in the story he'd heard from June in the freezer in the kitchen. How one day, glycerin began to crystallize, and the story of ice that wouldn't melt at room temperature. When Junpei was done, Seven looked thoughtful and absent-mindedly rubbed the scar on his chin.
Ice that doesn't melt at room temperature, huh?
That sounds familiar?
Yeah, hold on. I feel like I can remember something. It's right there.
Seven squinted. His eyes stared off into space as if he were trying desperately to focus on something far away. Do you know something about it? No. Yeah.
Do you know about Ice 9?
Ice 9? Ice 9. Ice 9.
Ice 9.
Ice.
Baby. Suddenly, Seven's eyes shot open.
That's it. I remember now. That woman, she's on this boat.
I said what?
That woman?
Alice!
Alice?
Who's Alice?
Come on, the woman who won't melt at room temperature.
What?
Huh?
It became clear to Seven that Junpei had no idea what he was talking about. He ran his hand across his face and took a deep breath.
You know how the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, right?
I mean, I didn't know the exact date, but I knew of the general thing that happened.
Yeah, more than 1,500 people died. Worst maritime accident in history.
Was it?
What about it?
Did you hear about the boat that was sent to collect the dead bodies?
I think that was the RMS Carpathia, right?
Who knows that offhand?
It was a cruise liner, just like the Titanic.
Who the hell knows that?
No, that was the ship that picked up the survivors. The ship that collected the dead bodies was the CS McKay Bennett. The McKay Bennett showed up on April 17th, 2 days after the accident.
Well, that had to be a very gross day.
It set out from Halifax, a port in Canada, and recovered 306 bodies.
Okay, well, that's more than I would have thought.
The Atlantic that far north was really cold. It would have to be for there to be icebergs and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, the bodies they pulled out of the water were frozen solid.
This isn't a very nice story. So, what happened next?
When has any of the stories we've been told been particularly nice? Let's be real.
Well, they say the McKay Bennett recovered something more than just dead bodies. There were various bits of stuff floating around in the water. Things the drowned had carried with them, or stuff that dislodged as the ship sank. One of the things they found was a coffin.
A coffin?
The freaking... You better not be talking about the goddamn mummy.
Yeah, a wooden one. The craftsman who made it must have been pretty skilled. It wasn't just a wooden coffin. It was all wood, no nails, no reinforcements, no gaps in the wood anywhere. The thing was airtight. The crew got pretty curious about what might be inside it and opened it up. I had to get a wedge and hammer it open. It was so well made. Inside,
Was a mummy?
they found a woman. Or, I guess you should say, they found the dead body of a woman.
Uh-huh.
Her hair was thick and black, and her skin rich brown with no blemishes or signs of decomposition. They say that she looked gorgeous, like a goddess. She was obviously dead, but everyone who looked at her said she just looked like she was sleeping.
So the Titanic was sunk because of an Egyptian curse?
Her skin was so lifelike, she looked like she might wake up any minute. And she didn't, though. Like the rest of the bodies they found, she was frozen solid. Eventually, the McKay Bennett finished searching and returned to Halifax. The 306 bodies were unloaded and taken ashore. However, it was warm enough that they began to thaw.
Ew.
They say that the stink was horrible.
I can only imagine.
But there was one body that didn't thaw. And that was...
The girl in the coffin.
That's right.
Are you saying this woman was named Alice?
Everybody thought for sure that she'd melt and start to rot like the rest of them eventually. But weeks passed and nothing happened. Then a month passed, and another. It was summer, and she was still frozen solid. After a while, people started to say she was some sort of miracle. Rumors about her started to spread. People came to visit Halifax from all over. After a while, people started to call her All Ice. Alice.
I see.
Of course, those rumors didn't last long.
Why?
Well, she up and disappeared. One day Alice was there, the next day she wasn't.
How does that work?
They say someone snuck into where they were keeping her and stole the body. With the body gone, the rumors followed pretty quickly. After a while, no one remembered her. You might be able to find something about her if you could find a newspaper from back then, but that's about it.
Wait, you just said that she was on this boat.
Yeah, I did. Alice has got to be somewhere on this ship.
Okay, and the reason for thinking that would be...
Why the hell would you say something like that?
Because I know.
How?
And just what is it you know?
What happened to Alice after she was stolen?
How do you know that? Junpei gulped.
All right, tell me, what happened to Alice?
Seven nodded slowly and took on the look of a man recalling something long buried.
Well, around that time, the word was that there was a special black market in New York. All millionaires from all over the world. I've heard that Alice went up for auction there.
That's really disturbing.
The person who won the auction was Lord Dashiell Gordain. You've heard that name before, right?
Lord Gordain. Oh, isn't he the guy who bought the Gigantic? The Titanic sister ship?
Yeah, that's him. Although I guess he hadn't done that yet.
What do you mean?
Gordain bought Alice in 1912. 4 years later, in 1916, he bought the Gigantic.
How do you know he bought
And
Alice?
he hid Alice somewhere on the Gigantic.
How do you know that?
But nobody knows where. He died in 1931, and a Apparently, he died without ever telling anyone where Alice was hidden.
So was it common knowledge that he had bonded, but you just said that everyone forgot?
However, what?
Well, he did have one close friend who asked him, "Where is Alice?" And he said, "Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the Forest of Knowledge beneath the navel of the Gigantic."
What the hell is that? Is it some kind of riddle?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Is that the same coffin that Snake was in? Is Zero an ancient pharaoh? What?
So that's it. Whatever you think, I believe it. She's hidden somewhere on the Gigantic. In other words, she's hidden somewhere on this ship.
Okay. Before Junpei could dispute Seven's rather bizarre claim, as Junpei was trying to figure out what on earth he was going to say next, Clover's shrill voice pierced the room.
Hey, what are you two doing over there?
Talking about a corpse, Egyptian... I don't know, Clover. I'm very confused.
Stop wasting time and get over here.
Okay, we're coming.
Jeez.
Seven looked at Junpei.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the story.
That's a weird story.
It might be useful someday. Don't forget it.
Okay. With that cryptic remark, he turned and left the room.
Alice. Huh.
Junpei was left behind to ponder what he'd just heard. He tried to remember what June had told him earlier.
That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. They say that she was frozen. The story says that from the time of its discovery all the way through to when it got put on the Titanic, even though it was carried through the desert, her body never melted.
Then was that Egyptian priestess Alice?
Apparently?
Did the water in her body become Ice 9?
No, that's nuts.
And on top of everything else, how is this relevant to anything? How is this going to help us?
There's no way somebody like that could exist.
Junpei shook his head, trying desperately to clear it, and followed Seven to the operating room where Clover was waiting. Alright, that's weird as hell. But, alright, that's one key down. Now we just need the other one, which means I gotta do this whole body shenanigan nonsense again. Aye. Alright then, well, when new stuff pops up, I'll be back.
What are you doing? Did you want to come back here and say goodbye to John? Hey, Clover, can you hear me?
My brother might be dead.
Huh?
That's why we couldn't find him. If he's dead, I'm going to be next.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?
Oh. Well, if there was ever anybody I could think of that might enjoy this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not exactly 100% sure how it'll help her feel better, but I mean, a gift's a gift. He didn't know why, but suddenly Junpei remembered something he'd been given earlier.
It's in my pocket somewhere. Here it is.
He reached into his pocket and dug it out.
A 4-leaf clover.
Santa had given it to him in the second-class room. He held it out to Clover.
Hey, did you know? Each leaf means something. Hope, faith, love, and luck. That's what a 4-leaf clover stands for. Take it. Use it as a good luck charm.
He pressed the 4-leaf clover into her hand.
Listen to me, Clover. No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck. Snake, I mean, your brother, he's not dead.
I actually know that for a fact!
He's alive, somewhere. I'm sure of it. You've just gotta believe in that.
Clover stared at the 4-leaf clover in her hand. He could see tears start to form at the corners of her eyes.
Thank you.
Her voice was tiny and broken, and as she spoke, she started to cry. She tried to hide her tears by looking at the floor, but it did little good. She wiped away tears with the baggy arms of her jacket, but more quickly took their place. No matter how she tried, she couldn't stop crying. Her tears made small wet circles on the floor.
Thank you.
She said it again. Then she looked up at Junpei and seemed to choke down the last of her grief. She did her best to smile. Junpei wiped an errant tear from her cheek with his thumb and gave her the best smile he could manage.
Come on. Seven's waiting for us at the exit.
But still, she didn't move.
Wait, before we go, there's one thing I want to ask you.
What up?
What's that?
What do you think when you hear the word experiment?
I mean, a lot of things. For a moment, his mind froze. Then he came back to his senses and realized the word meant nothing to him aside from the dictionary definition.
What?
Oh. I guess it was just a coincidence then.
Eh?
I mean, that you knew about the four-leaf clover.
I feel like a lot of people know about four-leaf clovers.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a jerk, but you are making less than no sense right now.
Oh, no. It's nothing. Just forget about it.
I'm sure it's going to be relevant, so I choose to not forget about it.
Oh, don't give me that. You really think I could just drop this? What is this experiment you were talking about?
Clover looked away. The four-leaf clover was still in her hand. She stared at it for a long moment and then finally spoke.
You promise you won't tell anyone?
I mean, yeah.
Cross my heart.
Really?
Really?
I can trust you, right?
I never tell lies, and I keep my secrets.
Of course you can.
Clover slipped the four-leaf clover into her pocket. Her eyes still red from crying, she looked up at Junpei.
Okay then, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what happened on this ship 9 years ago.
Okay, this sounds incredibly good. Hello, what?
Wait. On this ship?
Yeah, this ship.
He was entirely lost. He had 1,000 questions, but it was probably best, he thought, to save them until Clover had
It
finished.
was an experiment to test some sort of psychic thing.
I know that much.
Communicating through these fields that you can't see.
Why do you know this?
Fields that you can't see?
He'd heard something like this before. Clover nodded.
Think about this.
She pointed at the operating table. On top of it was a somewhat mismatched medical mannequin whose parts had been swapped with another mannequin.
This is John, right?
Mostly?
But is he really John?
I mean, a very large supply of him is no longer John.
Huh?
All Junpei could think was she has finally completely lost it. No. She's got lots more to lose.
Isn't this like Locke's socks?
I'm sorry, what about the treasure hunter?
Or the ship of Theseus?
C'est quoi? Junpei grew even more confused. He'd never heard of either of those things, although they sounded smart.
You don't know? You haven't heard of those paradoxes?
I'm sorry, I'm not a smart man.
No?
Junpei shook his head.
Really?
Clover laughed.
Okay, well pay attention then. This is how Locke's socks works.
Okay.
Let's say I've got a pair of socks. They're my favorite socks.
Okay, sure. I can follow
One of
that.
them gets a hole in it.
That's a truly sad day.
What would you do if that was your sock, Junpei?
I mean, even if they're my favorite, there's not really much you can do at that point. Assuming it wasn't a abnormal tear, then, I mean, that means the threads and the fabric have just, wore out. You can't really repair that. I mean, I guess patch it up.
Well, I guess I'd patch it up, get some cloth, and close up the hole.
I mean, that's all you can do, but it's going to eventually become pretty patchwork.
But what if another hole opens?
Well, then you're just screwed.
I'd add another patch, I suppose.
What if another hole opened after that?
Another patch, I guess?
Well, let's say you just keep adding new patches.
All right.
Until eventually, the original cloth of the sock is totally gone. Once you get to that point, can you really say they're the same socks you started with?
I mean, no, you definitely can't. Although the new memories you've made with each patch definitely still live within.
Well, that's tough.
Junpei crossed his arms.
So, that's the Locke socks thing?
Yeah, the ship of Theseus is a lot like it. The ship of Theseus. If you keep fixing the damaged parts of a ship, eventually it ends up with none of the parts it started with. Can you really say that ship is the same one you started with?
I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment. I'll definitely say that.
And what if you took all the old parts from the first ship and built another one somewhere else? Then which ship is the real ship of Theseus? The one you repaired, or the one you built with all the original parts?
I want to say the one you built with the parts? That was an interesting question. Clover could see Junpei was intrigued.
Hey, do you think it's the same?
What's the same?
These guys. Is this John, or is it Lucy now?
I mean, I guess if we're not talking about actual, like, you know, cognitive people, then, I mean, because that's all inside the brain meets. So, like, you know, if you replaced everything but the brain, it would still be the thing that is the brain. At least that's what I feel. Junpei looked at the operating table again. A mannequin full of body parts from a different body. Clover had been right. It was just like Locke's socks in the ship of Theseus. The part of the body that holds a person's identity is the head. Of course, for many hundreds of years, conventional wisdom had held that a man's identity resided in his heart, or any number of internal organs. There was a very odd stretch of time where everyone thought that the sense of identity came deep from the colon, but there you go. And here, they had both.
John's head and heart are both his, but apart from those, and a single arm, the rest of his body was once Lucy's.
I'm gonna say he's still John. Was that mannequin really John?
We're just like these mannequins.
She looked at Junpei again.
Think about it. The cells in our body change every day. Old ones die and new ones are born.
Oh, yeah, I've had that thought. It's caused an existential crisis in me when I was much younger.
Maybe part of my arm is made of stuff from a fish I ate once. Or maybe part of your right side is made from a cow you ate.
Well, fat chance of that, I don't eat cow.
If you take it a little further, those cows and fishes are made from something else too, right?
That much is true.
That's how we're all connected.
Huh. That's actually a really interesting thought.
Through fields that can't be seen with the naked eye.
Wow, you're the first character to go off on a weird little tangent that ultimately ended in with my microphone falling over. That's true also, but also that actually ended with me going, huh, you know, that's an interesting thought, honestly. And you explained a really bizarre concept in a way that I understand. The silence was broken by Seven.
Hey, what the hell is taking you two so long?
We're having well, not a debate, but I don't know, a moment. Seven's head appeared in the doorway. He was not happy.
How long are you gonna make me wait?
7 days.
We don't have time to screw around.
Crap, I should have said 9. Junpei and Clover looked at each other. Clover looked at Junpei as if to say there was more she wanted to tell him. She shook her head. Whatever she had to tell him, she didn't want to tell him in front of Seven. She seemed to catch on. Seven seemed to catch on.
Oh? What were you two doing? Was this some sort of secret meeting?
I mean, if it was, we wouldn't be able to tell you.
No, it wasn't. We were just playing with the mannequins.
As you do!
Huh?
Let's go, Junpei.
It was fun. Moving a little bit too fast to be entirely innocent, Clover headed toward the exit. Arms fully, like, flailing as she did. It was a very unconvincing power walk of innocence. Seven stared after her and then turned to Junpei with an amused expression.
Playing with mannequins, huh?
Yes.
Didn't know you were into that kind of thing, Junpei.
I mean, hey, everybody's got a thing. Don't judge.
You're a dick.
Junpei dashed past him and traced Clover's path out the door. Honestly, I feel like Seven is one of the nicer dudes in the entire group. I like him. With a short laugh, Seven followed. They stood in front of the door, and Junpei took out the Jupiter key.
All right, I'm gonna open it now. Is that cool?
All right, so I do believe we are now back on the same path as before. Well, you better believe there's a bunch of new informations that are going to be going on around in here. And considering I'm going to have a lot of time where I'm just chilling with Clover alone, yeah, all right. But now I have to hang out with Ace, and I know what he's done. Or will he, and what he will attempt to do. Ooh, don't like any of that. No, sir, no, sir. Well, all right. I'll see you guys when new stuff happens.
You don't need to keep asking, just do it, alright?
Rah, 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 rah.
Oh, pocket watch.
Hey, man.
Oh, I just...
Yeah, there... You checked on us. Now get out of here. We split this stuff up for a reason, all right? That's a lie. We didn't have to split up the work. I just want to talk to Clover alone. That's why I sent Ace to the wheelhouse. There's something I want to ask her.
Oh, all right. I'm digging it down for that.
I don't want anyone to overhear us. I'm pretty sure Clover won't talk if there's anyone else around. That's why when Ace showed up again, I got a little desperate. I had to make him leave.
Ace opened his mouth and took another look at Junpei and shut it again. A small smirk appeared on his face.
Oh, I see. Of course.
Nothing you say is of any value to me. He looked Junpei over, then glanced at Clover.
I apologize for the intrusion.
Yeah, I'll bet you are. Now get the hell out of here.
Well, best of luck.
You would-be murder man. Wait, no, you already have successfully murdered. You killed the 9th man by all. You didn't do it at first hand, but you still did it. Ace gave Junpei a knowing pat on the shoulder and left. All right, but I want to talk to the Clover. Junpei let out a sigh and brushed a few drops of sweat from his forehead. He turned and found himself looking straight into Clover's eyes. Hey, girl. She heard what Ace had said. She regarded Junpei with caution.
What was that about?
Not what you think. I just want to talk. She was clearly suspicious, and with good reason.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Junpei's eyes widened, and he held up his hands in a gesture of innocence.
No, it's not like that.
I mean, you are very cute, but no.
What's it like then?
I just wanted to hear the rest of that story. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it until now.
What story?
About the experiment, remember? The one you started to tell me in the operating room?
I even shoot a dude out of here so we could talk.
You said something about an experiment that happened here 9 years ago.
Yeah. We got distracted talking about, like, Theseus and his socks or whatever. Clover bit her lip. She stared down at the floor for several long moments, and when she spoke, it was barely audible.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk about that right now.
Ah, butts.
I'm just not in the mood, okay?
Well, if there's anything I know, it's that pressing on it will definitely not help anybody accomplish anything, so we should probably drop it.
You understand, right? I keep thinking about my brother.
Yeah, I get that.
I can't stop. I mean, who would do something like that to my brother?
Oh. But surely, come on.
I can't forgive them. I'm not gonna let them get away with it.
I don't remember if we have the information necessary to tell her about. We just need to tell her about the arm.
They're gonna pay for it. I promise. So.
Her shoulders were shaking. Drops of blood had sprung on her lips where she was biting them. She wiped it off and looked at Junpei, her eyes fierce and angry.
Junpei, who do you think did it?
Well, good news, one, is that I know for a fact that he is not dead. And second of all, I know who tried, and it was Ace. Her voice was cold and scarcely above a whisper. Junpei gulped.
Well, if what Seven said was right, then there would have to be at least 2 of them. You need at least 3 people to open the numbered doors. And if you subtract Snake, that means there were at least 2 other people.
All right, well, so far, I kind of like how things are going so far, because not only was I able to help her out at least a little bit in there, we're having ourselves a detailed conversation. If hopefully we can figure something out and maybe make her calm down a little, we can avoid this whole mess.
You're right. So, what does that mean?
Well, if we do some math, I mean, we can get some guesses, but I know that they're all not true.
Well, if we just look at the bracelet numbers, we should be able to figure it out. Who could have opened door 3 with Snake? Well, really, who and who, or who and who?
You mean it could have been 4 people?
I mean, yeah, it could have been 3 people, because you need at least 3 people to open up a gate. Yeah, if it was 3 people working together, and they just, threw Snake in anyway.
Well, technically, it's possible.
I don't know.
I'm not saying that it did happen. In fact, I know that it's not. I'm just saying it's possible.
That doesn't seem very likely.
Why?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Why don't we just assume it was only 2 other people for now?
Sure, all right.
Got it. Let's do that then.
Then who do you think it could be?
Junpei crossed his arms and thought, well, if I had to guess, I'm going to go with Ace and the 9th man. There's no way that's going to be an option, though. Snake's bracelet number was 2, which 2 bracelet numbers added to 2 would give a digital root of 3, which two bracelet numbers added to 2 would give a digital root of 3. Oh, yeah. All right. Numbers and sumbers and gumbers. Okay, well, I know that she reaches the conclusion of Santa and 7. So I could say that, but I don't want to say that. Okay, but thinking. Surely there... I mean, no matter what I do, none of these are true. Okay, I'm gonna bank entirely on the idea of being here and supporting her and being able to guide her to a better possible ending, so that when I tell her this, she will not want to do anything rash.
Would it be Santa and 7?
I mean, that is... I'm just not smart enough to come up with any better number combinations, if there are any. 2 plus 3, 7 equals 12, 1 plus 2 equals 3.
The digital root for Snake, Santa, and 7 is...
I just don't want to think that they would do that.
3. Wait.
Also, I know that they wouldn't do that, but still, you know.
Are Santa and 7 the killers?
No, they are not. We know they are not. And I don't like saying this.
What's wrong?
And Clover looked at Junpei and he looked back at her. There was no point in hiding it.
Well, I thought about it, and...
He told her his conclusions.
That's what I thought.
She looked less surprised than he'd expected.
Santa and 7. If it was 2 people, then that's the only combination that works.
I mean, again, if you exclude the 9 bracelet.
Hey, wait a minute there. Don't you think it's a little too early to be jumping to conclusions? Well, all I said is that those 2 would have been able to open door 3 with your brother. There might be other possibilities.
Well, what other possibilities?
The 9 bracelet. He didn't have an answer. He was ready to admit defeat when Clover spoke.
Are you saying you think that it was 3 or 4 people? I really don't think that's likely.
I'm willing to listen as to why you think that.
Why not?
Can I borrow your pen and paper?
Clover put her hand out expectantly.
Yeah, here.
She says, expecting me to do it and not giving me much of an option. Alright, Junpei pulled out his pen and pad of paper and handed them over to her. She opened the notebook and wrote down several simple addition problems. Oh yeah, we get in 3rd grade up in here. Eventually, she had 8, which provided a digital root of 3. Alright. 2, 1, 3, 6, 12. 2, 1, 4, 5, 12. Yeah. Alright. 4 and 7. Gotcha. So basically, all the possible combinations. Literally, so many of these. There are so many possible options. Oh,
What's
God.
this?
These are the combinations for 3 or 4 people. These 8 combinations are the only possible ones.
Oh, I see.
Junpei,
Yeah?
I can trust you, right?
If you're asking if I had any hand in harming your brother in any shape, way, and or form, I'm gonna go ahead and say nah, unless this game is about to pull out the grandfather of all epic twists.
Of course. Why would you need to ask that?
Really?
Yeah,
So then I should get rid of B, D, G, and H, right?
of course. Just cross them out. And you should take off yours too. The ones with 4.
So, what does that leave?
Okay.
A and E.
Let's see. So that would be Ace, Snake, and June. Or Ace, Snake, 7, and Lotus. Yeah. But I mean, again, we know that A just ain't the thing.
Wait, it can't be A.
Why?
Because June's in that one. There's no way in hell she'd do something like that.
Are you sure?
I bet my life on it.
Okay then. I can cross off A too, right?
Yeah,
Well, what have we got left?
E.
Yeah, 1, 3, 7, and 8.
Do you know what this means?
Everyone besides me, you, and June would be working together.
Do you think that's likely?
No, I do not.
If there were 4 people working together, they wouldn't be very cautious. I don't think they'd try that hard to hide what they were doing if they outnumbered us, right?
That's honestly a pretty good point.
Well, you do have a point.
And besides, If Ace and Seven are working together, they could have easily gotten rid of me when I went to the shower room with them.
That is also true,
But
yes.
they didn't. They didn't even try anything. If they were killers, why wouldn't they?
Her voice was calm, but Junpei had only to look at her in the eye to know it was a forced calm. There were tears forming at the corners of her eyes, and she was blinking furiously to keep them back. Perhaps by attempting an objective analysis of who might have killed her brother, she had been able to distance herself from the harsh reality of his death. The more she struggled to act unconcerned, the more Junpei felt his heart tighten.
I see. Anyway, I understand now. It seems pretty unlikely that it was as many as 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
Then that means there's a good chance it was Santa and Seven.
But I do not think that it is. In fact, I know that it's not.
That's how it looks.
But why would they do it?
There was a moment of silence.
Their motive.
He laid his hand gently on her shoulder. He was close, so close to the answer, when this happened, when Ace chose the worst possible moment to return. He raised a knowing eyebrow and then spoke.
Have I interrupted something?
Yes.
What is it?
There was something I wanted to speak with you about, Junpei. Could you come with me for a moment?
If I have no choice. He turned on his heel and walked back toward the wheelhouse.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll pick this up later. Junpei looked over at Clover. He gave her a short nod, hoped that she would be willing to talk to him again later, and followed Ace. All right, what the hell do you
What
want?
do you want to talk about?
Ace looked at Junpei and smiled. Perhaps more of a smirk than a
There
smile.
was something I wanted to check.
Yeah? What's that?
Oh, he's gonna do the thing.
If you'll excuse me.
And with no warning, slipped it in there, and we got... Oh, no, we don't have that yet. Okay.
Hey, what the hell are you doing?
I'm just checking.
No, stop.
Reached for Ace's arm, but it was already too late. In the older man's hand were the pieces of paper Junpei
Just
made.
as I thought. What exactly are these pieces of paper hiding in your pocket?
I was gonna play paper football. What's it to you?
You switched them, didn't you, when we voted? Well, I can't say that I care.
Or do
I
you?
managed to get through the numbered door I wanted, despite your mischief.
Then, why did you...
Oh, simple curiosity. I hope you won't think ill of me for it.
I mean, not for this. Ace smiled, gave Junpei a friendly pat on the shoulder, and then turned on his heel and left. It was a small defeat, but it was a defeat. Junpei had lost the upper hand, and he knew it. Feeling his stomach began to tense. Butts. Alright, there we go. So, I got all we're gonna get out of this one. Just gotta get through this, and then we'll go over to the captain's quarters, where things are gonna get oh so very, very real. I'll see you in a moment.
Tim, didn't I tell you already? Zero is one of us.
Yeah. Right. Well, even if he wasn't one of us, there's no way that man could be Zero.
Huh?
Don't you get it? The letters that spell Zero on the TV screen, the captain's clothes he's got on, and of course, the bracelet with a 0 on it. It's too obvious. Look, this is Zero right here. This dead body is Zero.
Calling out the cliches.
Isn't that kind of fishy?
You're right. Only an idiot wouldn't see through something like that.
No, that's not the point. So I'm not trying to make fun of them for thinking a trick like this would work. I'm sure they didn't think it would work. Which makes me wonder.
Why did they do it?
I think this is a challenge. A challenge from the person who's really behind all of this. He's making fun of us.
I'm relatively certain we're reading new stuff right now.
Don't you get it? If whoever killed this guy really wanted us to think this corpse was Zero, they'd never have put a bracelet on him. Walking around with a 0 bracelet would be like hanging a sign around your neck that said, "I did it!" Anyone with a brain would be able to see that this guy is supposed to look like everything Zero is supposed to be.
Something about the way Junpei is saying all of this is rather humorous.
Just like we did. The killer must have known we wouldn't think he was Zero and put the bracelet on him anyway. Do you know why?
Why?
Like I said, he's mocking us. Too bad, suckers. This isn't Zero. Where's the real me then? See if you can catch me. It's the same bad joke a lot of criminals like to play. They'll just sit back and watch people run in circles.
He's not wrong.
That's really twisted. But it almost seems kind of childish.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you should really be expecting from psychopaths.
Yeah, you're right. It's really childish. It's like it's just a game to whoever this person is. That's what seems funny to me.
Junpei bent down next to the corpse.
Alright, let's get back to the point. Who killed this man?
I don't know.
And what's this guy's deal? Who is he?
How would I know that? If I knew anything, I would have told you.
You have no idea who he is.
Why would I?
Junpei sat back on his haunches and
We
thought.
should check and see if he's got anything on him that might tell us who he is. Give me a hand here, Clover.
Huh?
We gotta flip him over. How else are we gonna search his pockets?
Clover didn't move.
Okay, fine. Guess I'll do it.
Alright, fine, I'll flip the corpse. Some friendship this is! Junpei had no choice but to move the body on his own.
Here we go.
He grabbed hold of an area not completely covered in blood and shoved. It took a moment, but eventually Junpei felt the man's bulk begin to shift. But just as it did,
Huh?
something fell from the man's left wrist.
Hey, it's the...
The bracelet was 0 on the face.
Lastly, let's discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only 2 ways to do so.
And in case you've forgotten on your many attempts to go through this game, allow us to tell you again.
1. You escape from this ship. 2. More hotly, which is 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship, or the backside of the mirror's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically.
Oh, God.
Junpei stared at the
This
bracelet.
man... He's dead, isn't he?
Duh?
No, it's just... I guess I didn't really think about it until right now.
This bloody corpse on the floor is a dead guy!
If his bracelet's off, that means he's dead.
Well, it's pretty obvious that he's dead. You don't really need to look at his bracelet to figure out that he's dead.
No, you really don't.
Yeah. I guess you're right. It is pretty obvious. Well, he looks a lot better than the other bodies we've seen, though. You know? I mean, if there wasn't all this blood, he'd almost look like he was still alive.
Is this an attempt at humor?
I mean, I know it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but he kind of has it better, you know? Dying from a bomb going off inside of you, I mean, that's just... Some of Snake's bones went right through his skin.
Ah!
I think the explosion must have thrown him against a wall or something.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't know why you would feel the need to talk about the body of... the assumed body of her brother.
There was a broken bone just sticking out of his left arm.
But, on the other hand, the fact that you randomly decided to do this extraordinarily ill-advised thing to, you know, the assumed victim's sister does, in fact, give us this.
And,
Suddenly, Junpei realized what he was saying, the absolute dumbass. How could he have been so cruel? He clapped his hands over his mouth. But it was already too late. He turned to look at Clover. She was glaring at him furiously. Justifiably.
What did you just say?
Her words sounded cold. He knew an apology could hardly atone for what he'd done, but he tried anyway.
oh man, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I really don't know what I was thinking. I mean...
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Thank God.
What did you say about his arm?
There were bones in his left arm. But wait.
arm?
Yes, his left arm. You said it, didn't you?
I did.
Well, yeah, I did, but... I mean, didn't you see it too?
Of course not. I could barely look at him.
I thought it was weird that you
There's
didn't.
no way I was gonna see the details.
But at the same time, that's fair. Clover took a quick, deep breath.
Are you sure it was his left arm?
Junpei thought back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
I remember very specifically noting his left arm, which is weird.
And he had a broken bone, right?
What the hell are you getting at here?
Just shut up and answer me.
Yep, just do it, dumbass! She shoved her face closer to his. He could see the fire in her eyes, which is impressive because they are green. Junpei winced and swallowed.
Yeah, he did. It was pretty bad, too. The bone was sticking out of the arm.
No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Clover's expression changed.
Clover? What's wrong? Look, I'm sorry if I said anything.
Suddenly, she was crying. Junpei wasn't sure what to do.
Thank you.
It was close to the last thing he expected to hear.
Huh?
'Cause you just proved something amazing to the Clover.
What are you...
She is definitely not gonna go nutso now. Junpei had no idea what had just happened. He didn't think he'd done anything worthy of thanks, and he couldn't understand why she would have chosen that moment to begin crying. So he simply stood there, deeply confused.
Thank you so much, Junpei.
She thanked him again, and then something even stranger happened. Oh. Hugs? Clover threw herself into Junpei's surprised arms.
Hey, what's going on with you?
I'm sorry, it's just... I'm so happy.
Why?
The body in the shower room, it isn't his. It isn't my brother.
Huh?
It's not Snake.
Why on earth would you think that?
Because his left arm is...
She stopped herself.
I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah, maybe not, but it would be nice if you did. I feel like we've established a good friendship here. We're doing good things here. Pat, pat on the back. Junpei decided it would be prudent not to press her for any more information. If she didn't want to tell him, then she had certainly had a reason for doing so. Perhaps more importantly, however, if Clover was so certain, then she was likely right. That meant the body in the shower room wasn't Snake. It wasn't much, but that knowledge lifts some of the weight from Junpei's heart.
He's still alive. I'm so happy.
This is going to help a lot. Tears shone in her eyes. Those tears melted Junpei's heart. As she cried, she had pushed herself up against his chest like a child. Junpei put his arms around her and held her tight.
I'm so glad.
Huh?
Junpei, you were right.
Huh?
No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck.
It all comes back! Clover reached into her pocket and pulled something out.
That's...
It was a laminated bookmark with a 4-leaf clover.
I only made it here because you gave me this. I was suspicious of everybody. I was angry and miserable.
I've seen the timeline where that is especially evident.
But because I had this 4-leaf clover, because of what you said to me,
Yeah.
Junpei hadn't thought his words would have such an effect on her. Her words were making him feel a little awkward.
Thank you so much, Junpei.
She looked up at him. He scratched his nose and pretended to notice something interesting somewhere else in the room.
Oh, if you really want to thank somebody, you should be thanking Santa.
Santa? Why?
Well, he was the one who gave me that thing. And the words for each leaf, I got that from him too.
Oh.
Then, suddenly, Clover broke away from Junpei.
Huh?
He looked confused. He hadn't thought she'd react that poorly. Clover began to pace around the room. Oh, she do be walking about. She be doing herself a big ponders. 6 steps to the left, 6 steps to the right. Another 6 to the left, and then she stopped.
Did Santa really tell you those things?
I remember it vividly. It was very weird. Her eyes were serious, but not angry.
Yeah, he did. Did I, say something wrong?
Again.
Oh no, not at all. In fact, this could be really good news. I think.
You think?
Santa knew about the words and the clover. The only people who should know about that are the other subjects.
Subjects?
Hello?
The other people who were in the experiment 9 years ago, with my brother and me. But he's blind, and I was part of the Nevada test group. So neither of us would be able to recognize the faces of the people who were on this boat.
Hey, yo, Clover, you want to fill me in on some of this here, girl?
Whoa. Okay, time out.
Junpei held up his hands. He took a deep breath and let it
Let's
out.
just calm down for a second, okay? Start from the top.
Because remember, I have very little context to the words that are coming out of your face.
Don't start with the end and then jump to the middle. You gotta start with 1 and then move to 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. If you don't tell me stuff in the right order, I'm never gonna be able to figure it out.
Okay.
Clover nodded.
All right, let's start with this experiment. What happened on this boat 9 years ago?
Do you know about morphogenetic fields?
I've heard the term.
Morphogenetic fields.
He did, and the realization sent chills down Junpei's spine.
All right, how about this? Theory of the telepathic mechanism.
I think Lotus mentioned something like that.
Junpei recounted what Lotus had told him earlier. Clover nodded.
Telepathy, huh?
Mm-hmm. I kept saying telekinesis, but that's not the same thing.
Well, that's not really it, but I suppose it's similar.
So they were testing telepathy on this ship?
Yeah, I guess so.
And on you? I mean, I guess you were in Nevada? What?
So, what exactly did they have you guys do?
The same thing that we're doing now. Exactly the same thing.
You mean the nonary games?
What?
The nonary game. 9 people were put on this boat, and 9 others were put in the building in Nevada, and the game started.
Junpei grabbed the sides of his head.
Look, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. What do the nonary game and some telepathy experiment have to do with each other? Am I missing something here?
Clover bit her lip. She blinked back sudden tears. What had happened to her in Nevada?
The ability to access a morphogenetic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. You know how sometimes when you're up against a really tough problem, and then the answer just kind of pops in your head?
Sometimes.
That's an epiphany. And what you learn from the epiphany can be transmitted with telepathy. When you add danger to that equation, then it gets easier to transmit that information over telepathy.
So then they were trying to test telepathy by endangering people and trying to get answers to puzzles across people from Nevada and onto a boat?
So you're saying the nonary game was supposed to introduce that element of danger?
Yeah, but it couldn't be just any old danger. It had to be life and death. And someone did actually die. A girl.
Well, that's horrible.
Huh.
Junpei felt the sudden grip of despair on his heart. Something deep and distant and powerful squeezed, and for a moment he felt very, very empty and alone.
She was on the boat with my brother. I was in Nevada. I never met her, but I did hear her name. Her name was...
Gah! The sound of the door opening was like a gunshot. Why is life this way? Junpei spun around.
Oh, my apologies. I seem to have disturbed you.
Yeah, you do that a lot, jackass. Get out of here.
Ace.
You two must have strong stomachs. I can't imagine how you could stay in this room for so long.
Ace glanced down at the floor. Hey, didn't notice that I flipped the body? All right, at the corpse covered in blood.
At any rate, Junpei, would you be so kind as to come and help me with something?
Ugh.
I'm having a little trouble, and I could really use your assistance.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Come on. It'll only take a moment.
With that, he turned and walked back towards the communications office. Clover waited until he was out of sight, then spoke in a small, quiet voice.
I don't want Ace to hear us. We can talk about this later.
Fair enough.
Huh? Hey, wait.
Clover ignored him. From outside, Junpei could hear Ace calling.
Junpei? What are you doing in there? Hurry up.
Aye. Always with the interrupting of the things of the information. Grumbling to himself, Junpei stomped off towards the communications office. What? Oh, I get it. You just want me to get back to the... yeah, alright, fair enough. What? There's still another thing in here. Alright. I'll find it.
Looks like there's something on the cover. A.L. All Ice. Alice.
I'm gonna go ahead and wager that this is probably the new information.
Does this mean...
Junpei couldn't hold it back. He had to know what was in that file. Oh, well, that would explain why it's all hieroglyphics. And it looked like tiny drawings and all that
What
business.
the hell is this?
He didn't realize he had spoken out loud until Ace looked over at him.
They are hieroglyphs, a form of writing used in ancient Egypt.
Ancient Egypt?
That's right.
Can you read them?
Of course. I can't. What would make you think I could?
You're capable of a lot of things.
What the hell?
Jimmy flipped through a few more pages. It wasn't just 1 or 2 pages that were covered in the strange symbols. Every single page was covered in them.
The whole thing's like that.
Trying to read them was pointless. Junpei wasn't going to waste any more time with them. He waited to close the file, and then something fell out.
What's
He bent down and picked it up.
Oh.
It's the Uranus key. Pfft. This one...
Uranus.
Yep. Good for you. Anything new?
Something's written on the bottom. Bottom deck library. This must be the key to the library, then.
So it would seem.
Bottom deck library.
I mean, the dialogue was a little bit different than before.
Oh.
Oh, Junpei remembered something he'd heard from Seven when they'd been in the chemical closet.
and said something like,
Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the Forest of Knowledge beneath the navel of the Gigantic.
Oh, a forest of knowledge. That could be a library.
could beneath the navel mean the bottom deck? And the Forest of Knowledge is the library? Then could Alice be in a room somewhere beyond the library?
And on top of everything, what would that mean?
What's wrong?
None of your business.
Something on your mind?
No. Junpei blinked. Only then did he notice Ace looking at him. Curiosity and concern written across his face in equal parts.
Yeah. I just remembered something.
Is that so? What about?
Well, don't laugh, okay?
There was no reason for Junpei to hide his thoughts, of all the characters. He began to explain his theory to Ace. Then he stopped. It wouldn't make any sense if Ace didn't know who Alice was supposed to be. So he told Ace everything June had told him. Oh, great. Now he's full of information. That's the worst thing to do for evil people.
An Ice 9. Interesting.
And the woman who wouldn't melt, who was recovered from the Titanic disaster, they called her All Ice, which eventually turned into Alice. And she was purchased by an English millionaire who called himself Lord Gordain. According to Seven, this ship is where he hid Alice.
And you think that he hid her in a small room, beyond the library on the bottom deck?
That is my currently running theory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is just a theory.
Ace stared off into the distance, his hands slowly and absentmindedly stroking his beard. Oh, you're gonna call that a beard? That ain't no beard. After a few moments, his hand stopped. That is a half-assed goatee at best. He's turned slowly to look at Junpei, and his brows drew together.
Junpei, have you ever heard of the term CAS?
Nay.
Cass.
It stands for Cells Alive System. It is an advanced technology for freezing and preserving organic matter. Put simply, it is a technique that allows one to freeze things without the formation of ice crystals.
Gasp!
Normally, if you freeze something fresh, water within its cells expands as it crystallizes, damaging the cell membrane.
Which is why you can't just, fall into a frozen lake and be thawed out later.
CAS, however, works differently. The object to be frozen is super cool using magnetic fields, and then frozen instantly and uniformly, giving ice crystals no time to form. It was originally developed for the preservation of food, as an alternative to the normal freezing process. Now, however, there are rumors that it can be used for other things.
Elaborate, you evil
What
man.
do you mean, other things?
Well, there are obvious medical uses, but perhaps also space travel.
Space travel? Are you serious?
Surely you've heard of suspended animation. Cryogenic freezing?
That's a sci-fi concept,
It's
yes.
a fairly common idea in science fiction books and films. People are sometimes frozen for especially lengthy journeys through space.
That was when Junpei understood what Ace was suggesting.
Whoa, wait a minute there.
Ace looked at him and raised an eyebrow.
Are you saying that Alice was frozen using that CAS thing?
Well, I'm sure the possibility is quite low, but it is a possibility. If this special ice you call Ice 9 does indeed exist, and CAS were used to freeze her into that sort of ice instantaneously.
You think she could be alive?
Well, I can't say for sure, of course. I'm only talking about possibilities. The melting point for Ice 9 is 96 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
If she were put somewhere where she could reach that temperature...
That's nuts. Are you really saying she could have defrosted and started walking about?
Like a burrito!
You're quite right. It does sound unbelievable. But if she had, then we would have an explanation for the man we found dead on the floor.
You mean the guy dressed like a captain?
Yes. He was dead when we found him. Clearly, he was murdered.
You think it was the Egyptian princess?
But if he was murdered, then by whom? It couldn't have been one of us. That would be impossible. In order to enter the captain's quarters, one must first open door 1. That door that requires the Earth key prevented us from accessing door 1. Who was it that opened that door?
Santa and Lotus.
Right. Clearly, the two of them could not have opened door 1, or any other door for that matter. Who else then could have done so?
Junpei thought for a second. Egyptian priestess!
Nobody. After Santa and Lotus used the Earth key, they turned back and met up with me and June. Then we returned to the large hospital room and found Ace, Seven, and Clover. While we'd gone into the shower room, Ace, Seven, and Clover had stayed behind. But it's impossible for those three to open door 1. But what about when June and I took the elevator to door 2. No, still won't work. We were only gone 5 minutes. No human being could have run to the captain's quarters, killed that guy in there, and run back that fast.
Not with that attitude.
It would be impossible for any of us to be the murderer. That being the case, who could have killed him? Wouldn't it make sense if his killer was someone who had been in the ship for some time? A person like that would know the ship well. They would know the locations of all the hidden passages and secret doors.
I didn't realize there were any of those in this place.
The numbered door would mean nothing to someone like that. It would be a simple thing for them to enter the captain's quarters.
Then you're saying the killer was Alice?
It was Junpei's turn to raise an eyebrow. Ace drew his thumb across his lips thoughtfully.
Well, this is all only one possible theory.
All ice. Alice, is she really somewhere on the ship?
That'd be very weird. Junpei had only one clue, and that was the Uranus key.
Maybe this card will give me access to the Forest of Knowledge and the big mystery
Of Uranus.
What could be there beyond the Forest of Knowledge?
They make it too easy.
Anyway, whatever. It's gonna have to wait. I can't do anything right now. I'll come back to this later.
He gripped the key card tighter and shoved it deep into his pocket. Alrighty, and that's everything. That's everything, which means it's unlocked and we can get the hick and heck out of here. They stepped out of the captain's quarters and ran into another hallway. Time to see what's gonna happen this time. Oh boy.